then they would slowly turn towards ensuring more sustainable development,
Sure.
which would mean, as I said, sharing resources and not consuming natural resources the way we are doing.
Sure.
But if you consume it at this rate,
Sure.
we are heading for doomsday.
Sure. And like when you think of Bhutan, you also, like I said, you think of a landlocked country, and you think of a country locked in between two regional hegemons. How has G&H influenced your foreign policy with respect to like China and India, which makes for interdependence as well as certain sovereignty?
Well, in terms of sovereignty, we've always been a
Yes.
sovereign, independent country.
Yes.
Bhutan has never been colonized,
Sure.
despite its geographical
Yes.
location.
Yes.
So I would say that sovereignty is something that we've always enjoyed,
Yes.
and of course in this day and age you have to adapt your sovereignty to the needs of the day.
Sure.
And in today's world, your sovereignty will, to a large extent, depend on how self-reliant you are. And I would say that through GNH, this is something that has promoted maintenance of good relations with
Sure.
all our neighbors.
Sure.
Bhutan enjoys very good relations with our neighbors. There is total trust and confidence in Bhutan, and our leadership has also ensured that good neighborliness, that we work towards building trust and confidence in each other,
Sure.
avoid all kinds of conflict,
Sure.
and this can be done if you have dialogue, if you have resolved everything through interaction and dialogue.
Sure.
And this is the foreign policy that Bhutan has followed,
Sure.
that we maintain good relations with all our neighbors and also countries that are far away from our neighborhood. At the end of the day, good relations among countries, among people, only enriches and
Sure.
it only ensures more well-being and peace in this world.
True. But at the same time, even though there's a lot of interdependence and a lot of dialogue, Bhutan has been very astute in realpolitik terms as well, because, for instance, many would argue that, not now, but in 1949, Bhutan would have faced a very precarious situation with the consolidation of the Chinese state and the occupation of Tibet, whereby it found itself as, in a way, a buffer state between India and China. And its policies seem really astute in that it has great relations with China, but it's also an area of strategic importance for India. So there's a lot of interdependence, is there not, between India and Bhutan. Why did Bhutan turn to India? Because everybody knows that the links with India are unshakable, and that the Indian army as well as the Bhutanese army protect its frontiers. What would be the rationale for that?
Well,
How does this
I would look at
relationship
it this way, that Bhutan has always believed in having good neighborly relations.
Sure.
And we've always worked towards promoting such relations.
Sure.
So we have never looked at ourselves as an advantageous or disadvantageous position.
Yes.
We have said that geopolitical realities are that we have India in the south and China in the north.
Yeah.
And these are countries which are big in territorial size as well as in terms of population.
Yes.
But we've always believed that there is a way of living in happy and peaceful coexistence.
Sure.
And that size really doesn't matter.
Sure.
We as a small country, so long as we conduct ourselves well, we conduct friendly relations, that all these countries would also understand and also appreciate.
Sure.
And give due regard to us.
Sure.
And I must say that both India and China have always been well disposed towards Bhutan.
Yeah.
That our size was not looked at as a disadvantage by either of these
Sure.
countries. They both respected our independence, our sovereignty, and they've looked at us as a member of the international community with mutual interests and concerns.
Sure, Bhutan's definitely played its part, especially I know in relation to India when the Maoist guerrilla forces weren't allowed to harbour themselves in Thimphu. But also, I was fascinated to read, Your Excellency, that countries like the Maldives and Pakistan themselves, to the ambassadors like Mr. Shahid and Mr. Qureshi, have approached you and asked you to be a partner in the formulation of economic policy and culture, and that they wanted to bring GNH back to their countries in some way or the other. How has this happened, and has Bhutan helped?
Well, we are willing to help, but we are sharing. SAARC also, we have agreed to share the GNH concept with member countries and to conduct workshops. And at any opportunity given, we are sensitizing, the region on the importance of a development philosophy that has more human values and people-centered, etc. And this is where some of them would like to work with us, and would like us to share this concept, and we are willing. And towards that, we have offered to share this concept and to hold any kind of workshop or seminars if they so desire. And as you mentioned, there are countries within the region and outside who are showing interest, and we are working with them.
So is it feasible and is it possible that we will have an international conference in happiness, as many people are talking about?
Yeah, we've had, as you know,
yes,
international
but more wide-reaching, perhaps more inclusive.
Well, we will be very happy. Yes. And now, with the adoption of the resolution, there is a need for Bhutan to also be even more willing to share and to work with other member countries.
Sure. Your Excellency, excuse me for bringing this up because everybody does, but I want a more nuanced view of it. How is happiness being taken into account with the refugee, or the so-called refugee situation in the camps in between Nepal and Bhutan? What is being done to resolve it? And please give us...
Well, I would say this is an issue on which Nepal and Bhutan and the international community have been working very hard. I must say, the Nepalese government and the Nepalese people have also contributed a lot to this process. And the Royal Government of Bhutan has always been working with the Nepalese government to find a solution to this problem. It's a very complex.
It is very complex.
Very complex issue, and I must say also that the international community has been very forthcoming.
Yes.
And I would say that currently, as you know, the most recent figure is that about 50% or so have already been resettled.
Yes.
And I am sure that the people who have been resettled must be much happier than living in those camps. And but because of the complexity of the issue.
Could you explain the complexity of the issue?
Well, the complexity is that it's just not a simple case of a refugee situation.
Sure.
It has a lot to do with the source of the problem, which is firstly that most of the people have been identified as illegal immigrants into Bhutan, and secondly also the number of people that were in the camps. When the camps were first set up, the international community offered good facilities, and if you do that in a poverty-stricken region, where unemployment, poverty is so prevalent, and if you set up a camp where you provide good facilities without proper screening procedures, then you will attract a lot of people.
Yes.
to their camps. And this is exactly what happened. So the complexity is that a lot of the people we believe are not Buddhists, and therefore the verification process was established. And many rounds of talks took place between our two governments. And of course, unfortunately, also developments in Nepal, political developments, also did not really help, because we could not continue our dialogue. But we have reiterated to the international community as well as to the government of Nepal that when, as and when they are ready, we would be happy to resume the talks to find a lasting solution.
Do you believe, in terms of international theories and practice, that GNH itself can modify these in a way that's more conducive to cooperation, peace and coexistence?
Yes. The GNH at the end said that it values human relations. And if there are greater understanding, if we value each other, irrespective of which country or which region we belong to, if we can all look at ourselves as members, responsible members who are inhabiting on this planet, and that together, if we believe that we have to work to ensure that all development is sustainable, that in the process of development, human values, human relationships are not lost. And GNH is a very good way to promote foreign relations and relation among communities and families.
Also, Your Excellency, there was much talk about brand Bhutan and the need to have GNH as part of that. But GNH, as we see, is a very complex subject, which is very deep, and it isn't just lip service, because there have been lots of measurements or attempts at measurement and different angles at which it's come. Now, a lot of Bhutanese people are getting increasingly disillusioned because it's also, with the broadening of the concept, it has to be dragged for a while into the ivory tower. Now the international community seems really ready and receptive to it, but what's happening is that they see, to the regular person that I get to talk to time and again, they complain about how the government is always sending people abroad for conferences and inviting people for conferences, and they've just had it with all the GNH rhetoric that goes around, because oftentimes it's not the information that gets to the public, but it's the rhetoric behind it, which is also useful, but isn't the substance of the issue. So how does one build brand Bhutan in a way that keeps the integrity of the GNH conference and not alienates the average Bhutanese from something that's sprung from their own soil?
Actually, what we are telling the Bhutanese community is now GNH, birthplace of GNH is Bhutan.
Yes.
And that all of us must work towards and must be aware of,
yes.
And don't leave it to few,
yes.
The academia or few institutions to promote GNH. And that is where at the grassroots we have started, if you remember about a year ago, where we have now started GNH in the schools,
yes.
At various levels,
yes.
Where we had familiarization workshops with the teachers, and then the teachers have now drawn up programs, to include GNH in their schools, curriculum, etc. And the children are the future anyway, and also values are most important to be imparted when they are still young.
Yes.
So the GNH values are being imparted, and I guess brand Bhutan, it will take time. Already there are certain areas which is already brand Bhutan. GNH is one, and following GNH our environment,
yes.
our culture,
yes.
Relatively even the democracy.
Yes.
It's been this transition has been very smooth.
Yes.
So we are brand Bhutan in terms of democracy is a smooth transition,
yes.
From monarchy to democracy, and the good governance that has followed the democratization process, and the good governance that we are committed to maintain. So these are all part of brand Bhutan, but
Sure.
it will take time, and it means a lot of hard work to maintain the brand Bhutan, our culture. The environment is not easy because we have many challenges. The economic
Sure.
growth has to be there,
Sure.
so that we are able to finance our development, we are able to generate employment for our youth. So towards that we need economic growth, but an economic growth that is again a green economy.
Yes.
That's our focus.
Yes.
Not indiscriminate industrialization at the cost of all our values. That we
Sure.
will not allow. But it's very challenging, it's not easy.
Sure. Yeah. Also, you spoke about climate. Okay, this question I'm going to ask you to be brave. They say that all aid and assistance is interested, right? Full of interest of various sources. How does Bhutan structure its development partnerships so as to be viewed as an equal stakeholder in the process rather than someone that the terms are dictated to? How does Bhutan
Well, if you see the kind of aid that Bhutan is getting, the development partners that we have, and how successful it is. As you say, yes, there will be interests, but the interests are what we've taken. Most of our development partners, their interest has been to ensure Bhutan is a least developed country, to promote the well-being of the Buddhist people, to provide the social assistance required, to provide assistance required for economic growth, so that poverty is not prevalent, or to that extent that people, their welfare is improved over the years, and through that we're able to,
Sure.
basically the Buddhist people are getting empowered
Yes.
through the assistance that we have received.
But what's the catch? Is there a catch?
The catch is to make Bhutan also, as a nation, a responsible member of the international community, where we can play our role.
Okay. Also, it's not that I'm that skeptical, it's just that I'm also taught to view things with the lens of realpolitik as well as liberalism. So I'm about to ask these questions. Your Excellency, you've spoken about climate, and recently the HDI report that we received was on climate change and its far-reaching consequences, and Bhutan in many ways is not culpable for all the impacts that it is likely to suffer, and it's had